A page-turning thriller to throw in your beach bag this summer is The Wife Before by Shanora Williams. In The Wife Before, we meet Samira Wilder, a young woman who's down on her luck. But her life changes quickly when she meets a wealthy, handsome, and caring man named Roland Graham. Soon, they're married, and Samira can't wait to make a fresh start as the second Mrs. Graham. As Samira settles into the mansion she now calls home, she's blissfully happy until she discovers long-hidden journals belonging to Roland's late wife Melanie, who died in a tragic accident. But with each dusty page, Samira comes to realize that perhaps it was no accident at all. Determined to uncover the truth of Melanie's troubled last days, Samira realizes that her perfect husband is not as perfect as she thought. But the truth is not always what it seems. The Wife Before is a sexy, twist-filled psychodrama reminiscent of the classic Gothic tale Rebecca. And it's the perfect book to read this summer. The Wife Before by Shanora Williams is being published by Kensington Books, and it's a twisty thriller you really don't want to miss. Welcome to The Reader's Couch, a podcast that brings you lively conversations with some of your favourite authors and bookish personalities. Over here, the couch is always booked, but I've moved some books to the side table and fluffed some cushions so I can welcome a guest or two to come lounge with us. Today on the couch, we have Ashley M. Coleman, and she's here to talk to me about her debut novel, Good Morning Love, a fun rom-com set in New York City's music scene that follows an aspiring songwriter working as an account manager at a big media firm. And the novel centers her flirtation with a rising pop star who happens to be a client. Stay tuned. A novel set in the wake of a nationalist coup in the South Pacific that explores family relationships and the fallout of colonialism and racism is Mother Ocean, Father Nation by Nishant Bhattacharya. Mother Ocean, Father Nation centers an Indian family from a fictional Pacific island, and their lives are upended when the leader of a coup sets the native Christian population on the Indians and violence ensues. The siblings at the center of the novel are split apart when the only daughter and intellectual standout, Bhumi, must escape to the United States to begin a new life. This leaves her brother Jaipal, who feels like the unnoticed sibling, and both her parents behind. Both Jaipal and Bhumi, though separated, lead complicated and difficult lives, but they both seek a path to find a home once again. Mother Ocean, Father Nation by Nishant Bhattacharya is being published by Eco Books, and it's a compelling novel about the meaning of home and belonging you really don't want to miss. Hi readers, welcome again to The Reader's Couch. I'm your host, Victoria Wood, and here on the couch with me is Ashley M. Coleman, and she's here to talk to me about her debut novel, Good Morning Love. Please welcome to the couch, Ashley M. Coleman. Hey, Ashley.
Hi, Victoria. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Really excited to have you here. Loved seeing you at the Epigraph Literary Festival. So I'm really excited now to dive in and talk more about Good Morning Love, which, by the way, is available now this week for readers to get their hands on a copy of the book. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling? How excited are you?
I'm getting pretty excited. You know, publishing takes a long time. So the fact that you're kind of like almost waiting like 2 years for this thing and then all of a sudden it's here, I'm like overjoyed as the momentum is really picking up as we get to the release.
Yep, absolutely. So I want readers to hear from you. Tell us about your novel, Good Morning Love, and what can readers expect going in?
For sure. So, Good Morning Love is really peeling back the curtain behind the music industry and inserting a love story in the midst of that. So, I think that if you've ever kind of wondered about how the industry works and things like that, I think this is definitely going to be a book for you. The book follows Carlisa Hinton, who is a songwriter and also working full time at a media agency. She has this very strategic plan of how she wants to really launch her career, use her connections until she has a chance meeting with Tao Anderson, who's a rising R&B star, and of course her calculated world kind of goes into a frenzy.
Right, right, absolutely. I loved when you mentioned, this is kind of peeling back the curtain on the music industry because I felt, again, as a lover of all things music, I really appreciated kind of getting, some background information on that, plus also having a rom-com set there. So I'm really curious, what inspired you to write Good Morning Love? I kind of feel your background has something to do with it, but I want readers to hear from you. Tell us about what inspired you to write Good Morning Love and finally put pen to paper.
For sure. So I talk a bit about how this book really kind of took a lifetime to write. It takes all this like garnering a lot of experience within the music industry over the past 10 years, meeting different people and just always thinking that there were stories that lived within the music industry. But when it came down to putting pen to paper, it really was listening to an R&B album and thinking about what really happens when a playboy falls in love. Like when they're done with all the games, kind of done with, just chasing the lifestyle of a famous musician. And that kind of birthed the story of Carly and Tao.
Carly and Tao. So, okay, real quick, and this is a spotlight question. What album do you have on replay right now?
Definitely Watch the Sun by PJ Morton. It is a phenomenal and perfect R&B album.
Awesome. Okay, R&B, just as the same thing as Tao. Okay, let's get into the characters in the book. I want to focus a little on Carly. Again, like you mentioned, Carly, she's an aspiring songwriter, but currently she's working as an account manager at a big media company. And she's great at her job, but she's not really interested in the business of, promoting other musicians, other artists. She would love to write for them. She also has a father who has a background in the music industry as well. So, she kind of has some cautionary tales there, especially in her love life. But I want readers to kind of get an insight into who Carly is, as a person, as a character, what's going on in her life. Give us a bit more on her backstory before meeting Tao.
Sure. So Carly is just wildly ambitious. She moved to New York from her hometown of Maryland for college. And there she met her best friend Talia, where I feel like their love story is also central to the book as well. And just that really great like female friendship. Carly is just like a go-getter, she is just kind of like tunnel vision when it comes to what she really sees for herself, and in a lot of ways blinded by that ambition and kind of stuffing down a lot of the other things that might be happening with her based on that. So she's just, wildly creative, just a student of her craft, and, just because she's such a hard worker, it's easy for her to rise in the ranks at work, even though it's not necessarily her place of passion, but she's going to excel at whatever she decides to do because that's just who she is.
Absolutely. And I love that you mentioned Talia because I love Talia. I thought she was just really good in the book. I love the dynamic. You're right. Female friendship. Talia is roommates with Carly. Yeah. And I wanted to go to one of their boozy brunches, like invite me. I want to hang out with these girls. So I really enjoyed them as well. Tell us a bit about Talia because I thought her background was quite interesting and their friendship dynamic as well.
Sure. So Talia is really representative of like the stability in Carly's life. Carly comes from, a bit of a broken marriage, and Carly's an only child, and that just creates a lot of loneliness in many ways. And so I feel like Talia really just represented this. She came from more of the nuclear home with brothers and sisters. She's more on a straight path of, pursuing law, which is so much more linear oftentimes than pursuing careers in music or entertainment. You kind of know exactly where you're going and how to get there. And so I loved her just being this real rock for Carly in the midst of all the crazy things happening in her life.
Right, right, absolutely. And then, of course, the love interest, how he is one of the clients at Carly's agency. That's, kind of basically how they get together. For him, I was like, okay, is he a good guy? Or is he, more of a playboy kind of thing? Also, just being in the music industry, I've always thought to myself, well, how can these people hold down a solid relationship? I'm not saying it's not possible, but with everything going on, there are questions there. And I could tell Carly was also looking at the history with her father, who never really held down a steady relationship. So I know she was a bit cautious with Tao. But tell us about Tao, who he is as a character, and what he has going on in the book as well.
For sure. So, yeah, I think that to me was part of the lore of a character like Tao was I hope that as people read it, they're trying to figure that out. Like, is he good? Is he bad? Can we trust him? And so I hope that readers feel as invested in Carly and her story to kind of be like, who is this guy? But I think, deep down inside, it's really just, how long can you really sustain that life? Now, some musicians, you listen, they're in it for the long haul of kind of running around and not really settling down and, whatever works for you. But I think some people just get to a point where they've seen a lot. They've been to different cities. They've had women, and they're just kind of desperately in search for something real. And that's what I wanted to hopefully portray with someone like Tao, who's confident, has a lot going for himself, but still is missing kind of that true thing, that real part of his life to keep him grounded.
Yep, absolutely. And I do think, after some time, I'd hope that you want that real thing. You want that anchor that you can always rely on, count on, be there for, and also just be a supportive partner as well. So, yeah, I'm curious to see as more people start reading this one, if they think he's a good guy, if he's a bad guy, because those were some of the thoughts that were going through my mind. Another thing, too, was Carly. She has a demanding job, but she also has these artistic ambitions. That was something that kind of stuck out to me as well. Also, just how the industry can be, I want to say, complicated, which is, a nice way of putting things together because, Carly kind of goes through some retaliation because of what a producer did. I'm not, I don't want to spell everything out here on the show, but, she had the opportunity to be on an album that could really have been her big break, and then having to deal with that setback was also challenging. So I think there's also depth to this novel to some degree, even though it's a rom-com and it's fun. But I really liked that as well. Was that something you intended to also portray in the book, along with the light, fun stuff?
I did. I really hoped that it felt like a bit of an elevated experience in romance. I think that focusing on the love story is great, and we all love that, and we swoon. And believe me, I'm such a big fan of romance, and things working out. But I wanted to really kind of add these other elements, that I feel like, one, really affect how we show up in relationships. Because I think that like there's all these other life things that kind of like influence how we relate to our romantic interests. And then two, just trying to show Carly as this full person, that like, although, she's open to love and romance at a certain point, she, just that she could, I don't know, just kind of be a full person, a full picture. And so I wanted to kind of bring in these different experiences of her life and a bit of her family and things like that, just to kind of make her as well-rounded of a protagonist as I could.
Right, right. Absolutely. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to break things up on the podcast a bit and play a little game. It's going to be fun, I promise. So, because your novel centers around a musician and a songwriter, we're going to play Can You Name That Hip Hop Artist? So, I'm going to give you some of the legal names, their government name, their given name, of some popular artists throughout the years. So, they're not all current, okay? And you're going to tell me their stage names. Are you ready?
I hope so.
We're going to have fun. Okay, so this artist's legal name is Roderick Davis. What is his stage name?
Goodness gracious, that's a good one. Roderick Davis. I don't know that one.
Okay, so that one is actually Gucci Mane.
Ah, Gucci. Oh, who knew? I didn't know.
I'm going to be honest, I didn't know half of these. Thanks to Google, but I had no idea half of these. Okay, here's another one. Cardoza Calvin Broadus Jr. I hope I'm saying it right.
That, I think, is Snoop Dogg.
Yes, that is Snoop Dogg. Okay, this one's Sean Combs. Everyone knows that one.
Yes, that's Diddy, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, all his.
Yes, all the above. Okay, Joseph Cartagena.
Oh, Fat Joe.
Yes, Fat Joe is right. Lisa Nicole Lopes.
Is that Left Eye?
Yes, that is Left Eye. Who is Elle Simmons?
DMX.
Yes. Okay, who is Onika Mirage?
That would be Nicki Minaj.
Yes, that one was kind of a giveaway. Okay, Curtis Jackson III.
50 Cent.
Yes. Who is Clifford Joseph Harris Jr.?
T.I.
Yes, that is T.I. Who is Sean Corey Carter?
Jay-Z.
Yes. Who is Jeffrey Atkins?
Ooh, I was on a roll. Let's see. Jeffrey Atkins. That one I don't know.
Jeffrey Atkins is Ja Rule.
Ja Rule. Wow. Jeffrey Atkins. Okay. I'll hold on to that now.
Okay. We're going to get you on a roll again. Who is Dwayne Michael Carter Jr.?
Lil Wayne.
Yes. Who is Cornell Hayes Jr.?
I believe that's Nelly.
Yes, that is Nelly. Who else do I have? Who is Jay Jenkins?
Jeezy?
Yes, Young Jeezy. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Marshall Bruce Mathers III.
Eminem.
Yes, that one's popular.
Yeah.
Who is Jason Phillips?
Ooh.
Okay, here's a hint, because when I discovered this one, I was just like, oh, I had no idea what your legal name was. But it was the most epic versus ever. It was like epic. It was just epic.
Jason Phillips?
Yes, like people were shocked. Well, not really shocked. I mean, he was good, but he killed his versus. It was bad. It was so good.
Jadakiss.
Yes!
Yes, Jadakiss.
Yes, I didn't know his legal name, but I just remember I was like, man, you killed that versus.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, who is Tremar Dillard?
Tremar Dillard.
Tremar.
Tremar, I don't know.
That is Flo Rida.
Flo Rida? Okay, gotcha.
Okay, we have some women on the list. Let me go to them. Katrina Laverne Taylor.
Is that Trina?
Yes, that is Trina. Who is Robin R. Fenty?
Rihanna.
Yeah, we know Rihanna. And the last one, oh no, here's another, Dana Elaine Owens.
Queen Latifah.
Yes, that is Queen Latifah. And the last one on my list is James Todd Smith.
LL Cool J.
Yay! Awesome! I think you probably missed like 2 or 3, so that was really good.
Not a bad average. Not a bad average.
Not a bad average at all. Well, thank you, Ashley, for playing our game.
Thank you. That was so fun. You know, you watch all those shows where they play games and you're like, please don't let me be terrible.
I know, I always have these visions. If I were on a television show, I'd probably bomb because I'd go blank. But no, you did really, really, really well.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Okay, well, let's get into your writing life, Ashley. How long did it take for you to write and pull together Good Morning Love? I know it was a novel 10 years in the making, but from the second you started writing, how long did it take you? And if you don't mind, tell us a bit about your publishing journey.
Oh, sure. I'm happy to share, which I do a lot with my writing community. But yeah, 2017 was when I started because I had written a 20-page sample to apply for a writing fellowship. And so, although I didn't get the writing fellowship, I felt like, oh, I want to explore this story and see where it goes. So that was 2017. In 2020, was when I got my agent. So that had been 3 years. And then we sold the book in the summer of 2020. So from 2017 to 2022, the release date was about how long the book took from start to finish.
Right, right. And I'm always curious about the writing process itself. And I would love to hear about your writers group. I mean, feel free to share here on the show. But with that, what would you say is the most difficult part of your creative process?
Well, I know a lot of people struggle with time, but one thing I like to share is that I wrote the first draft for Good Morning Love in 30-minute increments, pretty much. So you don't always need a huge bulk of time because like most of us, we're doing multiple things, right? We might be working a full-time job. We might be moms or dads or whatever the case may be. And so we don't necessarily always have hours and hours to devote to our writing process. And so I really would start a lot of mornings by just setting a timer for 30 minutes and like not opening a browser, not scrolling social media, but just writing. And you'd be surprised how much writing you can actually get done in 30 minute increments when you're not distracted by anything else. And so for some of us, that might be waking up super early. For others of us, it might be staying up a little later than everybody in your house just to get some kind of quiet time. But 30-minute increments was kind of how I approached it. And that was just the first draft, you know? And then comes a lot of revision. And quite frankly, I feel like that is a bit of the hardest part, trying to figure out what to keep, what's really good, what, needs work, how to really kind of blow some things apart and rebuild them. That is an arduous process. And part of what essentially kind of took the 3 years was, working with beta readers and getting feedback on the work and then taking that back and trying to improve and make the best story possible.
Right, right, absolutely. And how beneficial for you has having a writing group? How is that in your writing process and your writing life?
For sure. It's been everything. So I have a writing community called Permission to Write that really works to cultivate and amplify the voices of Black writers and writers of color. And so one of the first things we did was start writing groups in different cities. And so at the time I was still living in Philadelphia. I put together a small writing group. I think there's about 5 or 6 of us, and we would kind of meet somewhere around monthly, maybe every other month. And one, it just really pushed me to get better because I felt like I was in a group with amazingly talented other writers. And so they were just an inspiration of like me just wanting to write half as good as they did. And then two, some of the feedback that they gave me was absolutely invaluable to my process. Even things like reading my query letter and giving me feedback on that, which is, you write a query letter to reach out to agents to see if they might want to represent your project. So I don't know where I would be kind of without that group. They absolutely are a foundational piece to why I've been able to kind of put it all together and be at this point so far in my career with my debut novel album. Oh, what a slip.
I'm waiting for the album. Okay, I'm waiting for the album too.
Not me. You do not want to hear me on an album. I'll stick to novel writing.
Alrighty, no problem then. I'll take the books. I'll take what I can get. All right, Ashley, but if you could tell your younger writing self anything, looking back, here you are, 2022, debut novel on bookshelves, what would you tell her?
You did it. My mom took me to the library all the time as a young girl, and that really developed my palate for reading. I really took to it. I know that doesn't always happen for kids, but I absolutely adored books. And I just distinctly remember reading through certain books that my mom would pass down to me because YA was not as robust as it is now, when I was coming up. So she would pass down her adult books to me, and I would read authors like Diane McKinney Whetstone and read authors like Terry McMillan and just think I know what they do is really amazing, but I think I could do it too. And so all I would just say to that person is oh my, look at us, girl, we did it. Can you believe?
I love that. We did it. Look at us go. I love that. I genuinely love that because you know what? It's possible. And especially for writers from marginalized groups. And as a Black woman, I love seeing now that you're right. The YA options are robust like never before. There's representation there. There's, again, more representation in adult literature. Of course, more work can be done, but I'm just happy to kind of see those books out there. So yeah, we're doing it. We're out here doing it. So I love that. Okay, so I know we're here to talk about Good Morning Love, Ashley, but are you working on any other projects right now? Will there be any other books in our future? What can you tell us?
I sure hope so. So, I don't have anything pending, with a date or anything like that, but I am definitely, for lack of a better term, back in the lab, working on what I hope to be some follow-ups. So I will be working closely with my agent on these projects so that hopefully we can bring them to readers after Good Morning Love.
Yay, awesome. I love it. Well, I'll be keeping my eyes out, and hopefully when that next project is ready to hit shelves somewhere, we can do this again.
That would be amazing.
Awesome. I love it. We're going to make it a date.
Yes.
All right. So I want us to get into your reading life, even though, again, we're here to talk Good Morning Love. So tell us about the last book or books that you finished reading that you'd now recommend.
For sure. So I definitely finished reading Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So it's a really cool story about music in Hollywood in the 70s that follows a band. I think the really cool thing about it is it's presented in a documentary style, which is just a very creative approach to structure when it comes to a book. So you literally have members of the band kind of recounting these stories in it, making a whole story of the book. So it's all just sex, drugs, and rock and roll, which is great. I feel like that's always an entertaining read, and she's a really great writer. And I've also read recently How to Fail at Flirting by Denise Williams, which is, it's been out for a while, but sometimes it takes a bit to get to books for sure. So that also is a great romance novel. And Denise Williams writes a bunch of great stuff. So, listeners can definitely check out kind of her whole canon of work.
Absolutely. I love Denise Williams. I did an interview with her for The Fastest Way to Fall. So listeners, you can go back to episode 11. It was a great novel. I had so much fun talking with her. And yeah, I love that book too.
So awesome.
Yay. All right. So what books are you looking forward to reading in the year ahead?
Sure. So I just grabbed One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle. I don't know if folks have read In 5 Years, but that was one of my random Target grabs, and it was so good. I literally just, found my way to the book aisle of Target, and I loved the cover. And I was like, oh, I'm going to grab this. And it was excellent. I so enjoyed it. And so when I saw that she was releasing One Italian Summer, I just bought it. I was like, I don't even know what this book is about, but I know that I thoroughly enjoyed in 5 years. So I picked that up. And then on the nonfiction side, I picked up Shine Bright by Danielle Smith, which is a look at women in pop music. So it's nonfiction. It's kind of like a little bit of memoir, but again, it's just swirling around that music space, which I love so much. And Danielle Smith is really an iconic writer and journalist. She also has past novels, and she was the editor-in-chief for Vibe, if y'all remember that from back in the day. Mm-hmm. So just a historian when it comes to music, and of course always championing women in the space. So Shine Bright is one of my next reads as well.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. So in addition to books and authors and reading and just everything literary, we love our indie bookstores. And I ask all our guests that come on the show. So of course I'm going to ask you to share with our listeners your favorite local bookstores.
For sure. So I have a couple to name. Definitely Kindred Stories, Solid State Books, Cafe Con Libros, which is in New York. If you read Good Morning Love, you'll realize it's based in New York. And also Shelves Bookstore, which is in South Carolina, I believe. And in Philly, you have Harriet's Bookshop and also Uncle Bobby's, which are two bookstores that I frequent often.
Oh, amazing. I love it. Thanks for sharing.
Oh, one more. I'm sorry. I cannot forget the Salt Eaters in Inglewood. I'm so sorry.
No worries. Listen, as many indies as you want to squeeze in, get them in on the show. I mean, I love indie bookstores. I mean, there's something special about them. Obviously, I buy books all over the place, but I just love when you can go in, have a conversation, grab a cup of coffee if you're at Uncle Bobby's or something. You know, it's just a good time always. So I love it there.
Such a vibe. You know, indies are great, and I love to see that they're thriving because I know that there was a time where they really struggled. And so just to see this revitalization of the space is so important and pivotal, including our libraries as well.
Yes, thank you so much for mentioning libraries, because libraries are the backbone of communities. You know, I often say, I don't expect you all to buy all the books, but request the books at your library, you know, because that also helps. So if you look and it's not there, you know, make a request. Sometimes they're able to bring them in. So, yeah, love our libraries too, for sure.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So let's get back to Good Morning Love. I know you've done your job as the author. You've written the book, you've given it to us, and now it's up to us readers to kind of, you know, decide how we feel. But in an ideal world, I guess I'd say, you know, what are some of the reactions you're hoping for, or what are some of the thoughts you're hoping readers might have when they turn that last page?
Oh, I love that question. So I think one of it is just have an open mind, because I do feel like the book has a lot more themes in addition to the love story, you know? So I think if you read a ton of romance, you know, you might kind of just want to have an open mind to like more happening in the story. But outside of that, I really hope that folks are loving just female friendship and how strong that can be and how much that plays into our romantic relationships. I hope that they see Black male characters that are flawed but still worthy of love, because I think that's a really important message that I hope to convey in the book. And then 3, I just hope that Tao and Carly become one of readers' favorite love stories. I think about some of the fictional characters that I absolutely treat like real people in real life. And so like characters like Lawrence and Issa from Insecure, or Derwin and Melody from The Game, you know, just all these kind of folks that you're just like, they're real people, you know, folks that you feel like you want to root for. And I hope that when that page is turned, that there is just a feeling of wanting to root for Carly and Tao and whatever comes of them in the book.
Oh, I love it. And I don't care what anyone says. Carly and Talia are real people. I'm going to get an invite to brunch one of these days, and we're going to make it happen.
Yes, boozy brunch all around.
Yes, I love it. Ashley, thank you so much for coming on the show and speaking with me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in to The Reader's Couch. You can find out more about the show and submit your questions for our guest by visiting our website, thereaderscouch.com. You can also connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Couch is Booked. If you like the show, please subscribe, share, and take a few seconds to leave a rating and review. Next week, I'll be back with new guests, more books, and some fun games we can play. But until then, stay lounging, stay reading, and whenever you're in doubt, go straight to your local bookstore or library. Thanks for listening, and happy reading.